Okay, right, so as we look to complete the square, of course, making it maths and all that, let's kind of pick up where we left off before and say, I'm going to give you the equation, and that is x minus 2 squared, ooh, that's terrible, x minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals, let's say, 25. First question, what is the center of the circle described by that equation? Well, the center, we know, is given by this 2 and the negative 1, right? So the center here is 2, negative 1. Remember, that's like a y minus 1. Okay, second question. I think you know what the second question is. What's the radius of that circle? Well, this is r squared over here, so our radius is 5. Because we know that our general formula for a circle is x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared, where our center is at AB. Okay, now what we're going to try and do today is to kind of go the other way. So I'm going to give you an equation, and this equation looks something like this. Let's go for x squared minus 4x plus y squared plus 2y, and that equals 20. And I'm not going to actually ask you the questions, but I'm allowing you a bit of time to jot that down while I ramble, right? And that is, what's the center of that circle and what's the radius? Now, we can't just read it off. This is almost analogous to, so you don't need to write this down, but think if I gave you a line like this, y equals 2x plus 3, and I ask you, what's the gradient, what's the y-intercept? You're like, gradient's 2, y-intercept's at 0, 3. But I gave you another equation. I said, okay, but what about y minus 2x equals 3? And you're like, well, I can't tell you yet. I'm going to have to rearrange it first to make it look like that. Then I can tell you quite confidently. Okay, so that's the idea that we're doing here. So hold this equation in mind. This one, x squared minus 4x plus y squared plus 2y equals 20. So hold this one in mind. And what we're going to do is we're just going to retrace our steps and look at the first equation that I gave you. And that was x minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 25. So our goal is to make something like this look like that. Numbers aren't necessarily going to be the same, but just that idea of this we can read off center and radius, this number 1 we can't. So let's multiply this out. So this one here, 2, multiply out. So you may go, well, x minus 2, because you think, oh, well, that's what that squared is. And let's do the other one. Well, that's y plus 1, y plus 1. And on the right-hand side, well, it doesn't look like there's much to do, is there? Equals 25. So multiply the left-hand side out, this bit there, the green and the purple, and add all your like terms, and then just take a pause and say, yes, I got it. Well, okay, so you multiply this out, you went, okay, x times x is x squared. Minus 2x gives us minus 4x. Because remember, we just went something like, well, minus 2x gives you minus 4x. Then you got minus 2 times minus 2 is plus 4. Okay, and so we went, right? So y squared plus 2y plus 1, and not too much to do on the right-hand side, equals 25. Cool. So things are looking good so far. Now, let's just add these like terms. So x squared minus 4x, not too much we can do there. Minus 4x. This y squared plus 2y, not too much. Oop, those were our big circles from the other day. It's always these y's that go a bit crazy here. Okay, so then we've got that. And then, well, if we've got this plus 4 plus 1, that gives us 5. So let's subtract 4 and subtract 1 from that side. What we do to one side, we do to the other. So that equals 24. I think I get, what do you get on the right-hand side? Yeah, 20, right? 25. And wait a second. Pretty unsurprising that that's the one that we're given over there, right? So now what our task is let's label this as equation 3. So just so I can refer to them. So we were given equation 3 in this format, right? Which looks like 1. And we need to turn equation 3 into equation 2. So we need to see how we're going to get this stuff, this green bit into there, the purple to there, and the 20 to 25, so we can just read things off. So let's look at what we did. So I'm going to leave that. So now what we're doing is I'm drawing a line here to say, this is what we're given. How are we going to work backwards to get to this x minus 2 squared, this format? So x squared minus 4x. Now let's just leave a line here. And I'm going to put in brackets. I know that it must be x minus something squared, right? And for the y's, it's going to be the same. We're going to have y plus something squared. And then on this side, I'm just leaving a little gap, equals 20. So that's kind of the format we're aiming for. So let's see how we're going to get there. Now, x squared minus 4x. There's only really one option. If you think about this up here where we had, well, x times x is x squared minus 2x gives us our minus 4x. So let's just highlight what I mean. This minus 2x gives us our minus 4x. In other words, this must be minus 2 over there so that we can get our minus 4x. But if we multiplied x minus 2 all squared out, we would get x squared minus 4x plus 4. But wait a second, originally we had x squared minus 4x, not plus 4. So in other words, to kind of compensate for that, what we're going to need to do is subtract 4. Oopsie, not in that, in minus 4. So that those two are the same, right? X squared minus 4x is the same as x squared minus 4x plus 4 minus 4. So that's x minus 2 all squared. Now we've got this minus 4. Now remember, we just added to both sides of our equation. So if we add 4 to that side, we're going to add it to this side. So we've just got the x minus 2 squared. We don't want a plus 4 or minus 4 outside the brackets here. So let's just fill in that part there and say equals 20. We're going to plus 4. So this bit on the right-hand side so far is 24. But we're going to do the same idea with the y's. And we've still got 3 more examples to do after this. So we'll kind of get into our rhythm and our routine on this. So we got here plus. Now, y plus what squared is going to give us this 2y? Well, we saw up here that it was y plus 1, right? Because you had 1y. Let's show that. So you had 1y plus 1y gives you the 2y. So in other words, we must have plus 1 in the brackets. Now, we've got, if we multiply this out, we'd have y squared plus 2y plus 1. But there wasn't a plus 1 originally. So we need to kind of compensate for that to go minus 1. Okay, but in the next step, we don't want the minus 1 there. So we're going to add it to both sides, and we'll get our equals 25. Okay, so there's our process. So as our last bit to see this one, before we do a new example, to get from this minus 4 to the minus 2, you see we just divided by 2. To get from this plus 2 to the plus 1, we just divided by 2. So let's do one more example that looks kind of similar to that one. Okay, got your breath. Cool. So in this example, we've got, let's do it like this. X squared plus y squared plus 10x minus 4y minus 7 equals 0. Okay, so there it is. What we need to do is find the center and the radius. In other words, we need to do that completing the square idea. So to start with, let's put all our x things together and then all the y things together. So go for it and click yes when you're done. Okay, we'll click yes, I don't know. So I'm going to put the x squareds plus 10x. And for the other part, I'm going to go for plus y squared minus 4y. And then for the other bits, I'm going to go, well, this plus minus 7. I'm just going to plus 7 on both sides. In other words, we've got equals 7. Okay, so for our x's, let's get into this. So we know it's going to be brackets. summing squared. Well, x plus, what's this number, the second term going to be? Well, remember we said we're going to take this and we're just going to divide it by 2. And that makes that 5. Okay, but if we multiplied x plus 5 all squared out, so I'm going to show this in a bit of working. If we said x plus 5 squared, we'd have x plus 5 equals equals x squared plus 10x plus 25. So in other words, that squared will give us plus 25, but we didn't have a plus 25, so we need to compensate for that 25. Okay, so the green bit becomes that green bit, and we just look at this minus 25. Okay, then for the purple bit, we've got y something squared. What's the second term going to be? Well, remember we said that we're going to take this thing here and divide it by 2. So we've got minus 4 becomes minus 2. But what happens if we multiply this out? Let's just see here. Y minus 2 squared. Well, y minus 2, y squared minus 4y plus 4. Now, do you notice we don't actually have to do all of this working because minus 2 squared gives us the plus 4. We didn't actually have to do all of this working. It's just the 2 squared is 4. Okay, but we didn't have a plus 4 there. So we must subtract it so it stays the same. So the purple bit becomes the purple bit. I'm going to show this in one extra step for this one. So you still got that minus 25 there, that minus 4 equals 7. We don't want it in that format. We just want the x plus 5 squared and the y minus 2 squared equals, well, let's add 25 to both sides of our equation. Let's add 4 to both sides of our equation. And what do we get on the right-hand side now? Well, 7 plus 25, 32, plus that, 36. So now, what is the center of our circle? And what is the radius? Let's start with the center. What's the center of our circle? We can just read that off now. The center is at minus 5, because it's minus minus 5, 2. What's our radius? Well, the square root of 36, which is 6. Okay, so that's our idea now. We're just going to complete the square. So let's do 2 more. I think it'll be worthwhile just to have them. This is the last 2, and then you can practice a few for the exercise. So we've got one here that says x squared plus 8x plus y squared minus 3y equals negative 6. Okay, so we can't read off what the center is, nor can we see what the radius is. So we need to complete the square. We need to put that into the nice format. So go for it. And before you go for it, just quickly write down, describe what you're going to do to complete the square, to do what we were doing just before. Just very briefly, just you kind of thought through how you would explain what you're going to do. Okay, so as I was saying that, I was thinking, how would I describe that without, showing all the steps? I'd say, well, I want to make sure my x's and my y's are kind of together. They already are, so I've already got the idea of this x squared plus 8x is kind of there together, and my y's are plus y squared minus 3y, and all the other jazz is over there. Okay. Now, my next step that I want to do is I want to kind of turn this into something squared, right? There's an x squared like that, and I want this bit to look like y and something squared. So that's kind of where I'm heading towards. Now, how do I find the second term here? Well, I always just looked at this, or without the x, just the coefficient, and divided it by 2. I did the same thing over here. Okay, so that was easy enough. This becomes plus 4, and this one here becomes minus 3 over 2. Then we needed to see, oh, but wait a second, those 2 green things are not equal. Those 2 purple things are not equal. So if we squared this green thing, x plus 4 squared, we'd get x squared plus 8x, but we'd have a plus 16. But there was no plus 16 there, so we need to compensate for it by subtracting 16. In other words, this bit here is just going to become 0, so you'll be back with what you started with over here. Okay, So maybe that's, yeah, let's do it like that. Okay, then we've got that plus 16 minus 16. So I could write minus 16 over here, but I may as well, save a line and go, okay, well, I don't want to minus 16 on this side, so I'm going to have to add 16 on the right-hand side. Okay, then we've got our second bit, our y's. Now for our y's, again, we've done all of that. And we're going to go, but okay, if we squared this, minus 3 over 2 all squared would give us plus 9 over 4, right? You possibly put it in your calculator, or you just went 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4. Okay, so there's that. But now we didn't have a plus 9 over 4. So we need to subtract 9 over 4, because then we're back to where we started. So those things will kind of cancel out, and y squared minus 3y is what we had. Okay, but we don't want it over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 9 over 4 over there. And so that our equation already looks quite nice. We got minus 6 plus 16. Okay, well, probably worthwhile grabbing that beloved calculator out. How do we have this? Oh, I think we did. Oh, there we go. It's up there. That worked nicely. I'm still in stat mode here. Ooh, table mode, even getting worse. Okay, so we got minus 6 plus 16 plus 9 over 4. 49 over 4. Okay, that seems good. So I'm going to put 49 over 4. Now we're ready to read off. So our center of our circle. What's the center of the circle? Well, remember this is like a minus minus, so it's minus 4 and 3 over 2. What's the radius of our circle? Well, it's the square root of that, so that's 7 over 2. Possibly you went to the beloved calculator and you went square root of that 7 over 2. Wasn't really necessary, but anyway. Okay, so that's it. So that's our kind of strategy. Let's do one last one, just because it throws up something slightly different. So let's say we've got 2x squared plus 2y squared plus 6x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, cool. Now, what do you notice that's different about this one compared to the previous examples? Well, in this case, I guess there are a few things. One is that we've got 2x squared and 2y squared, not x squared and y squared. There are no y's over here. I don't know, it's 0 on the one side. We didn't always have that. So let's divide the whole thing through by 2 to start with. So x squared plus y squared plus 3x minus 5 over 2 equals 0. Okay, now it looks like something we've dealt with before, and we're always going to do this, kind of just have an x squared and a y squared, not 2x squared or 10x squared. And they'll always be the same. Okay, let's rearrange it as well. So we got x squared plus 3x. On the y front, we've got, well, there's just y squared now. And I don't know, I always like to just have my constants on the other side. You'll see there are a few ways to do this, but let's stick with this method. So now we're going to go, well, this here is something squared plus, well, this is already y squared. So we don't need to complete any squares. It's already complete. And let's just have our equals reference. Okay, so we've got x. We always took this part here. We divided by 2. Okay, so plus 3 over 2. If we squared 3 over 2, we'd have plus 9 over 4. We didn't have that at the beginning, so we're going to have to subtract 9 over, not 2, 9 over 4 to compensate. Because remember, these two need to cancel because there weren't any constants there. Okay, and our next one, well, we need to do this minus 9 over 4. Let's add to that side. Okay, well, that's that. 5 over 2 plus 9 over 4, 10 over 4, 19 over 4. Is that it? Let's have a look. Beloved calculator, why not? Okay, so we've got 5 over 2 plus, I think I'm slow on the calculator. Plus 9 over 4, 19 over 4. Let's do it in this color. 19 over 4. Okay, so what's the center of our circle? Well, minus 3 over 2, and well, this is like y minus 0, so that's 0. So in other words, the center is somewhere negative x-axis, and like that. Okay, what's the radius of our circle? Well, by this, it's the square root of that whole thing, square root 19 over 2. Okay, so there's our circles. Complete the square, work through this process, maybe dividing by 2, and go for it from there. Okay, so exercise 2 is all yours. Enjoy, and see you later. Oh, of course we have to make it maths.